Hi, I'm Chrissy Cordingley, and this is my show, The Flare Up Show, and this special episode is produced in partnership with Clarissa, Burt, and in the Limelight Media. I originally created this show to advocate for myself through chronic illness, but today it's grown into a wellness show that's listened to all over the world. I love to practice well-being for the whole being. So if you're ready to rise, thrive, and elevate your life, stay tuned, enjoy the show, and thanks for listening. Welcome to the Flare Up Show, produced by In the Limelight Media, and I'm excited today because I have Lydia Gascón Samaniego. Did I say that somewhat correctly? Did I do okay?
That's good. That's
okay,
nice.
Good. Right on. She is the author of To Hell With You, An Adventure Through Tragedy, Love, Betrayal, and Transformation. Lydia is a woman of hope who believes that anything can be overcome. She's a teacher, a yoga enthusiast, energy worker, sound bath healer, life mentor. She has a BA from USC and an MA from Universidad de Salamanca in Spain. Hopefully I did that one right too. Do we do okay?
We're doing okay.
Right on. Lydia is the mother of 4 young men and lives in the Sierra Nevada mountains near Lake Tahoe, California. She enjoys time with family and friends, dancing, singing, hiking to high places, gardening, natural medicine, the great outdoors, and the awesome human potential. Welcome, Lydia. It's so exciting to have you on the show today.
Oh, thank you, Chrissy. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm super excited. I'm always excited, but I'm extra excited just for you, Lydia.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, I love the Flare Up Show started from like triumph stories, right? And that's like, you are exactly that. You're someone that I always joke about my own story and say, this mess is going to be a message. That's what this purpose of all this is going to be. So you are so brave and so wonderful and so lovely to use your healing to heal others. It's amazing. And your journey, you actually are releasing your book about it called To Hell With You, An Adventure Through Tragedy, Love, Betrayal, and Transformation. What made you write this book, and what can readers expect as they go through this book of your journey?
Well, what made me write it was that it was such a tragic and deep, dark event that I went through, and it just didn't seem logical that I would be going through it for one reason and for me just to suffer. So there had to be good in it for me and to share it to help others as well. So that was the bottom line. And what I hope that readers get is that through the story, they can find out how deep I went, but realize that no matter how deep you fall, no matter how low you go, no matter how devastated you think you might be, there's always a way back to home.
Back to home. And what is home for you?
Well, I think home is realizing who you are and having that internal peace. Because quite frankly, we could have everything in the world physically, but if you do not have that internal peace, then you can't really appreciate what you have externally. And it doesn't show the same beauty as if you have that internal peace, nor does it have the same power. So,
Yes.
and
Continue.
oh, nothing. Go ahead.
Oh, no, it sounded like you had more to say. So, could you give just a little overview of what your story is about?
Yeah, of course. So, we started out, my then husband and I, as many young people do, asking the questions, what is life all about? How do we get the most out of this time here on earth? And we did the same. But what we found was hell instead. I completely lost myself, completely, and he ended up taking a pellet gun and shooting out his eyes. It was absolutely devastating in so many different ways and on so many different levels. And the story goes into that. But had I stayed there, I would have been very bitter, very jaded, and I would have exuded an energy that I did not like, nor that was not me. And so I kept pushing, I kept fighting, I kept searching for the answers. And I even fought against the pain. And lo and behold, underneath the ruin, as the universe is, underneath it all is love. And underneath that there were the answers of how somebody could possibly live on this earth while you're alive. So yeah. And that's the story. Yeah.
You you share a lot in your book. I love that it portrays sort of the history, then the events, then the moving forward, and then the lessons at the end. And you frame it a bit as failures into freedom. What have you learned about, I think, even in tragedy, it's interesting how we still look at how did we play a role, but it's more complex than just like right, wrong, failure, success.
Definitely.
There's more to that picture than it's not just failures into freedom. Failures doesn't mean you personal failure. Failure could be failure of society, failure of resources, support, failure of other things too, right?
Yeah. Not quite sure I understand your question though.
Well, I guess when I think about your story and everything that happened to you, I don't know if I would. It's interesting because you talk about failures into freedom, but failure was not the word that came to mind when I read your story.
Oh, you are so sweet.
You
That's
know what
so
I
kind.
mean? Like it's like no, like you went to hell and back, but yeah, it's not a failing at all to me. Maybe tell me a little bit about that, like because I think I understand. I have a history as well, and sometimes tend to take a lot of responsibility, and it took
Yeah.
me a long time for that self love, which is what you're talking about. That's the freedom at the end, right? Is like, hey, I'm worthy, even though all these things happened, whether my fault or not, or whatever, right? So I would love for you to share a little bit about what freedom is to you and what how do we take these awful things, even if we've assigned responsibility for them to ourselves and move
Well,
them through us?
yes, pardon me. Yes.
Sorry.
I think that a lot of, like, for instance, my view on failure was, what we grow up with, right? We all have our conditioning that we are born into by our family or our culture or whatever. And so these were framed in my mind. So the idea of what I had gone through and what I had attempted to do and what I had attempted to accomplish did not quite come out as success. So it was a process of me working through that and understanding that I was conditioned that it really wasn't that way, and that it just depended on how I framed it and how I started to believe in it, that it changed into a sense of freedom, that that word failure does not have that hold on me anymore. And I also had to let go of how I was kind of brought up and how I was thought to think, and that um, once I did that, it was really releasing, and there was it allowed love to come in to me, that I could love myself, and that it was beautiful and very freeing. And I think that, like with your other things with society fails and things like that, I think the bottom line though is that love, we have gotten far too far away from the foundation that we all are, and that's love. And when it's not used even in anything that we do, whether it's politics, whether it's whatever society, it will start to crumble, because we are love, and it has to be included.
It does. It's like how do you interpret things? Well, you have to use love. That's like the magic coding key, right? That's the layer you place in everything, and that will always give you the best guidance of how to approach something.
You know,
It's sorry,
it's
go on.
funny. I have a son, my oldest, he's a physicist. And so I
Mhm.
told him, we've been talking about this for a long time. Obviously, my boys and I have talked about all these things and apply them
Yeah,
in our lives. But I told him, I said, I bet you one day you're going to discover a formula that proves that the foundation and the fabric of all the universe is love. And then he looks at me and he goes, maybe, Mom. So that's what I believe. And I just know it in my being that it is the foundation of all things. And it's woven in all of us and all things.
It really is. It really is. Anyways, I could go down a whole rabbit hole there.
I know.
Because I'm a big believer of all roads lead home. If some people find it through spirituality and that's how they find love, great. If they find it through science or the planet or, like it,
Mhm.
I find that at the end of the day, we all come to the same conclusion. It all
Yes, I
leads
agree.
to
Yeah.
love. Absolutely. Absolutely. And love, it's funny, we think, oh, love should be easy. It feels so good, but it can be hard, especially if we've had harm, tragedy, you're talking about, what your husband chose to do to himself. When you have children and all these things, it can be really hard to forgive people and understand how someone can get to a place where those things can happen. How do you suggest we actually get to a place of forgiveness instead of carrying around that weight, whether it's weight for others or even weight against ourselves and our own forgiveness that we are trying to give ourselves? How do we do that?
Well, I think first of all, we have to realize that we have been hurt, that we do hurt, that it was awful, all those things. We have to admit it, and we have to feel that emotion. We have to feel the anger, feel the pain, feel the resentment, and be honest. Because if you don't, you can't go forward. And then it doesn't feel good, and sometimes it does feel good because you're like angry. That feels good to be mad at you for doing that to me. But and then realizing we have to let it go. Because at the end of the day, what we give out, if we forgive ourselves. That forgiving energy, that forgiving, loving energy comes back. Then the more you do not forgive, that resentful, oh, I hate you, I don't, you did this to me, that energy comes back to you as well.
Mhm.
So I did an experiment with this to see, I would, it's a good practice and I still do it, but I would, when I would meet somebody, I would offer them love. I would offer them blessing, and they would not with my mouth, but in my heart as I met them or something like that. If I saw family, I would bless their family, that they would have a great union and lots of love and respect. If I saw a couple that were in love, and bless them, that would be genuine, that they would know true love and support, you know and then I felt good. And then sometimes, when you meet somebody or you see somebody, you're like, oh, you don't feel that, that's not your first reaction. You're like, oh, something is not quite right. But then, and so sometimes I wouldn't do it. And then that energy that I sent out came back to me. And I thought, oh, that is very interesting, because it is true. What you give out is what comes back to you. So at the end of the day, we have to realize that we forgive because we have to forgive ourselves.
Mhm. Yes. Yes. I try to make that a habit now. Even just something as simple as, getting cut off in traffic. It's like, bless you, sir. Like just all the blessings. Like, so yeah, absolutely.
The thing with that, though, you got to be careful, because you can't bless one who's not real, because your
Yeah.
body and your heart knows. And so it's
No,
just like,
yes. Yes.
so like if somebody cuts me off in the traffic, I just like, okay, well, maybe they have some place to go that I don't need. I don't know, And so I don't have to necessarily bless them, but I just don't
No, no, no.
don't
Yeah.
come down on them, And then I realize, well, maybe they, who knows? Maybe somebody's sick or somebody's ill and they're trying to get there, or, I don't know. Give them a
Yes.
good thought, a good reason why they,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. I tend to give people the
Yeah.
benefit. I meant it more of
Yeah.
a maybe a bad joke, but like, God bless you. Like,
Well, that's good too, though,
yes.
because I don't want to yell at you, but someone, God bless you. Yeah,
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
It all works, because
It
that's,
does.
you're trying to, you're realizing yourself and then trying to be loving, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Um, Gratitude has been very important in the work that you do and continue to do. What exactly does gratitude look like to you? What does it mean to you? How do we practice it?
Gratitude is funny, because when everything is peachy, it's so easy to be grateful, right? You can say, oh, life is wonderful. Everything is going my way, but it's quite another thing when life is pressing up against us.
Yes.
And so for me, gratitude is a practice, just like going to the gym and working out and 3 days a week or whatever. Gratitude is something that you practice, and you get better at it by doing it all the time and catching yourself. So, for example, when my mother died, she died suddenly in a car accident. And of course, it was absolutely devastating. And how can you be grateful for that? And it was a difficult time. But I tried, and even though my heart was ripping in half and I felt almost literally like my heart was breaking because I adored my mother. I loved her so much. She was my best friend. And we hadn't always been that way because you know how mothers and kids are with their parents. But at that point in time, I was looking at, okay, we had a great relationship. I was so lucky that there was no resentment or there was no regrets that I had with my mother, that nothing was not left unsaid, that I was close with her the way I wanted to be. And I was starting to focus on the things that I could be grateful for. Of course, I couldn't be grateful for the fact that she was gone and so rudely taken from this world, but it made me able to be more gentle with that side of it because I was so grateful for other things and focused on that. Didn't take away the pain, but it sure made it so much easier to deal with the pain. So, yeah, it's a practice. You have to search for what you can be grateful for in the moments that you feel like you can't be grateful for anything.
Yes. Grief is, for myself anyways, probably one of the most difficult emotions to feel. And actually, it was recently, I was just reading, I don't know if it was a paper, probably an article about grief. And they talk about the 5 stages of grief, that may actually not be accurate. And actually, it's more like 2 stages that we go back and forth. And to me, that was really freeing because then that means that
Right.
there's always days where it's going to hit you in the heart and it's going to feel hard to hold, right? And then there's other days when you can have the gratitude and keep bringing love, right? Like and feel that space. And to me, that's freeing because then it's not like you have to move through and all of a sudden there's this finished product where you're healed at the end. It's a much more human, like, no, this grief will come with you, but love is going to grow with it and around it, which I really like. And that just came to mind. So I'll share that with you.
Beautiful. I think
Yeah.
that's very accurate. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. It's that human experience. It's not a race to the end of healing, is it?
No, no. It's just an expansion and a deepening with the
Mhm.
experience. It should be. Yeah.
You have a little, I don't know if you can see it. There's a little rainbow orb that's been going across your forehead just now as we talked about your mom. Now it's gone again. Did you see? Is
Well,
it your window? Do you have a crystal in the?
I do. I do have a crystal.
Yeah.
In fact, it was from my mother.
Oh my goodness. There we
Yeah,
go.
this is my
You have to watch
mother's
the video
crystal.
after. You'd be like, yes.
My
Yeah.
mama's here.
Yes, absolutely she is. She's always, oh, that's so sweet. I love that. Um, let's talk about probably one of the most misunderstood words, whether it's physics or in spiritual practice, and that's manifestation, right? So people think like, if I just think it, I become it. Right? It's not. It's a little bit more complex. There's a little more intricacy to it because you talked about too, like it has to be very what you're putting into your life, what you're feeding yourself, your soul with, what you're putting out into the world, it has to come from a place of sincerity and also in a place where you're ready to have what it is that you're manifesting. So tell us a little bit about what, because especially if there's people out there listening that are going through repeated hard times, maybe, because it's never like life punches you once and then eases up for a bit. It seems to like go through this like long period, right? So and you think, but I'm doing all the right things, I'm thinking all the right things, I'm feeding myself all the good stuff. Why can't I just catch a break here, universe? Like, why does it feel like sometimes manifestation isn't working, or maybe it's not working?
Because you cannot manifest anything other than who you are. And
Yeah.
who you are is what you believe. And what you believe is what you continually think. So that's the simplest way I could say it. And then people will ask, well, how can I change what I believe? Well, again, believing is just a practice of a repeated thought that you continually you know, house in your brain, and then it becomes a belief, and then it becomes something that you live by. So you have to examine that. Manifestation has to do with a lot more than just I believe this and whatever, or I want this and that. You have to you have to know thyself,
Yeah.
and it's a process. And so that's why when people do not necessarily get what they want, or they keep trying and they keep trying and they can't get it, it's like, well, the bot keep searching further, because underneath that is that you really don't believe you deserve it. You really don't believe that you can have it. And if you examine it, you'll start seeing the thoughts going back and forth in your head. And all of a sudden you become the third party watching what's going on. Like, wait a minute, well, you back and forth. You're like, huh? And catch it.
Yes. Yeah.
Catching those thoughts and realizing, wait a minute, well, where did that thought come from? And then you start examining. Most of it came when we were younger, or how we were brought up. And then all of a sudden you're like, you have to examine that. Do you want to continue to believe that? Well, then that's a choice. Well, then you have to restarting program. But once you start understanding that, then when you start thinking new thoughts, they start grabbing hold because you understand where they came from. And then you consciously say, no, I don't want to believe that anymore. I want to believe this. And it will take time, because you are
Yes.
to doing the other so often. So you have to continue, like gratitude, you have to practice the other. It's like, oh, it's too confusing. Oh no, it's too much work. It's That's why for me right now, it's like this book coming out, it's like we have to relearn. We have to, as a society, as a person, and a society, we cannot change until we individually change. And so the work is all individual. I can't do it for anybody else, and nobody can do it for me. But what we need is to understand, well, how do we do the work then? Not just, okay, well, think this and think that. Well, why? What is the process that I have to do to undo what I have been taught and learn what it is that I want to be? Because every single one of us can be what we want to be. But first, we have to get rid of what we were conditioned to be. And the
Yeah.
bottom line to all of us, as we said earlier, is love. That's what we really are. And in order to manifest, we have to come to that final conclusion that the bottom line is that we are love. And when you find that we are love, things start happening, because you are in the zone of miracles.
Yes.
Because miracles and love, they exist on the same vibrational plane.
Yes, they do.
So that's why manifestation doesn't always work for everyone. Like somebody, for example, who grew up in a blessed home and everything was great for them, it's easy for them to believe that they can manifest because they have been conditioned that that's what their life is. But somebody who has been through trauma and tragedy, it's very difficult, because for them, all they have seen is tragedy and trauma. So, that's why for one person, they can manifest real easy, and another one, they can't.
Yes. So much of our thinking is created by limited experiences, right? The limited beliefs come from limiting experiences where we didn't experience safety, love, protection, that our needs weren't met, and probably from times when we were too young to provide our own needs, right? But yeah, so once we learn to understand that we are worthy of love, and we're at a space now where we can love ourselves and protect ourselves, and we are safe and secure, and we can extend that love outwards, that's what helps create the disconfirming experiences that are now different. And through that, we build up this trust and this love for ourselves. We're like, it's actually okay to love myself. I'm safe. I'm protected. I'm whole. I have everything I need now.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
you're welcome.
You believe that nothing is as attractive as living your excitement. What do you mean by that?
Well, when you meet someone who is really exuding themselves and who really is at peace with themselves, they are very attractive. Not only people are attracted to them, but just the same good energy of circumstances and situations and life. So it's extremely powerful and extremely beautiful. And that's why everyone should strive for that. And how do you do that? You have to do the internal work, go within and find who you are. So that is very powerful in so many ways, and it's very attractive.
Yeah, it is. It is. Where can people find you, Lydia?
Oh, thank you. My website is lydiasamaniego.com, and right now it's mainly promoting my book. But if you want to, just the book is on Amazon. Just type in the title, "To Hell with You," or my name, and it'll come up.
We'll put it all in the show links. Absolutely. And I
Thank you.
absolutely recommend people read your story. It's incredible. And you're incredible.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Chrissy. So are you?
Oh, thank you. What would you, if you could leave the audience or people that will be connecting with your book or just anyone out there right now, what would you want them to most know or hear?
I want you to hear that you are love and don't give up, because under all that pain is love waiting for you to find her or
Mhm.
find him, whatever, you know, adjective or whatever you want to pronoun you want to give love, but she or he is waiting for you.
Oh.
And I don't mean a person. I mean that energy of love. So don't give up. Don't give up. It is